We'll dive right in. Welcome to UnFed. My name is Sean Fitzpatrick. We're creating equality in our food system. Today, we are talking about preparing healthy food and strategies around it. We'll start by defining healthy food. So, what does healthy food mean? We're talking about naturally sourced, zero or minimal processing, and single ingredients. So those are the things you could think of right away, that it's natural. So if we're thinking right away healthy, you want to go to natural, single ingredients, things that aren't in boxes, or if it is only has 2, 3, or 4 ingredients on there, minimal chemicals, minimal processing. And I think that with preparing healthy food, very important right out of the gates to kind of identify this as a skill that can be developed, and that really has to be developed, that you can get better and you will get better with practice, just like in anything else in life. Your planning capacity, that's also a part that needs to get trained, that planning out the future meals and how like the ebb and flow of leftovers into, I bought extra spinach and it's not going to go to waste, and how can I tie that into a dinner or a breakfast the next day. That even that is a skill that has to be trained, and as time goes on, that gets refined and gets really good to a point that you're always ready to create a healthy option, and you got all sorts of skills and practices and recipes kind of ready to go. And I would say that in 20 years of coaching fitness and nutrition and working with people one-on-one, that this is, I would put this skill, this particular skill, above anything else related to personal health, wellness, and vitality. That when anybody kind of embraced that, the actions of taking control of their food and their intake and how they cooked and how often they prepped healthy food, that it was always the turning point for somebody's health and fitness journey. So um, I think I think that it's the most important one. I hope everybody kind of gets the feeling of the weight and the significance of it. I'm going to launch. I mean, for the most part, I think that um, it's a skill that everybody has a little bit, but you might not think of it as this kind of ongoing development, that it can continue to get better and better and better. And I think that's kind of the point that I'd like to make. Kind of going through the standard American diet, just to highlight where that is and what it is. If you were going to think that everybody would wake up, and I'm a kid, a child of the 80s. So waking up for breakfast for cereal, and then kind of or Eggos and Pop Tarts, and then rolling into a lunch of a turkey sandwich on Wonder Bread and a bag of Doritos. Eventually coming home for some soda and pretzels, and then having some meat and potatoes for dinner. I mean, that kind of sums it all up in a nutshell. And it's that routine has resulted in all-time levels of chronic disease and inflammation diseases and metabolism disorders. So what we want to try to do is just kind of think like whatever that is let's get away from it, and let's try to reverse it and embrace this kind of these practices of preparing and cooking healthy food as often as possible, tied to the standard American diet. And these are the key factors: the inflammatory foods, so refined sugar, chemicals, flours, refined oils, are all the major X factors that we have to be aware of. They are the byproducts of corn and wheat and soy, and essentially are just ultra cheap and are in tremendous quantities. So they pretty much just put it in every single processed food, from top to bottom, from chips to breads to up and down. I mean, they're in everything. So those are the ones like we want to be able to identify right away, and in our minds keep them as either eventually completely out of the rotation, or just keep them in the once in a while. I'll take a minute here to kind of talk about vegetable oils and oils for cooking. So before we kind of jump into some of the practices for for healthy cooking, uh, inflammation comes in the oils that you can cook with, knowing the terms like refined, oxidation, free radicals, awareness of kind of the high heat and the extraction process. So how we end up getting these oils instead of just blindly cooking with them, just having an understanding of how oils are impacting our health and our body and which ones really are the best ones to cook with. So the ones that break down are the high omega 6s. So essentially, everybody kind of knows, or you hear just by tuning in a little bit to health research and news, that omega 3s are healthy. Yep. Now, omega 6s are all the oils that you see if you look on the back of any of your salad dressings or your potato chips. You're going to see sunflower and safflower and vegetable oil or soybean oil, grapeseed oil, canola oil. And these vegetable oils are omega-6 fats that when they are heated and go through the high heating process, they create free radicals. And so essentially the oils aren't strong enough chemically to kind of stay bonded, and they break down. And so as they break down, they create inflammatory markers called free radicals in the body, and that leads to inflammation, which could, depending on who you are, lead to all sorts of different chronic disease markers. So being aware that we don't want to really cook, we don't want to really ingest too many of those oils at all. A little bit's okay, but really, especially when you're cooking, that those ones are unstable really to cook with. So when we're thinking of the smoke point and kind of the heat points of when oil breaks down and starts to kind of go through that oxidation process, the ones that have a better ability to withstand are olive oil and avocado oil, coconut oil, grass-fed butter or ghee. Those are ones that as you cook, either grilling, sauteing, searing, that they don't break down and create this extra kind of byproduct of oxidation. So I like to cook at lower temperatures. That being said, and it may not happen, you may not get that immediate fast cook that if you're in a rush, but cooking at slightly lower on a low medium heat. I always like it, you never want to see the oils kind of turn like brown or black in your pans. That means you kind of gone past that that kind of heat point. And yeah, just allowing it to kind of slow cook a little bit more and take your time with it allows these kind of healthy oils to remain intact and be a positive addition. In terms of salt, I mean, salt is kind of the same thing. Salt kind of gets, so some of the saturated fats and salts get a bad rap, but ultimately, like when you cook with them, when you get rid of all those standard American foods, all those super unhealthy ultra processed foods, going through like cooking with a little bit of the saturated fats that stay intact, and using salt in your cooking naturally, not by the bucket load, but just in the normal amounts, end up actually being healthy for you. So there's kind of this relationship with getting rid of all the ultra processed and then getting into this kind of normal flow of real foods and these practices of cooking that use some of these things that have kind of gotten a bad rap. Now, eating over the course of a year, pounds and pounds and pounds of salt and unhealthy oils over the course of, if you still have a standard American diet, is going to be bad for you, and you're going to have to be super conscious of everything. But as you transition into eating a whole foods based diet, being conscious of which fats you're using and how you're cooking is a super important part. I think that having a personal formula, now, kind of for your meal structure, as you get into cooking healthy food and whole food items, you start to put together a formula that works for you on a personal level. So being able to identify healthy fats is super important. So healthy fats and clean proteins. So the omega-3 fats that are in fishes and grass-fed beef and nuts and seeds and and olive oil. Being able to kind of choose your healthy proteins, which are going to be could be your eggs and fish and your nuts. Again, those kind of pair. A lot of times they'll pair up your healthy fats and your proteins. Vegetables and fruit at every meal. No reason not to. Try to slide them in somehow or however you can. Whole grains, if whole grains feel good for you, choosing a couple of whole grains that feel good, and you can kind of, those are easy ones to kind of cook in bulk and kind of parlay into your next meal as leftovers. I think embracing the food prep is the first step. I'll get into some of the kind of steps now and some of the skills. Chopping is something that I have. Not everybody loves to chop food. My wife, Janae, does not love to chop. I'm the chopper. I've gotten good at it. I like to do it. I kind of find it rhythmic and kind of calming in a sense. So getting used to and good at chopping is a positive thing. Sauteing, the kinds of and styles that I like to rotate through: sauteing, searing, grilling, roasting, baking, steaming, and raw. I rotate through all the different ways just to kind of keep things fresh. Sometimes I'll steam one meal and then I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll bake or I'll roast the next one. Same thing. I'll get outside even in the wintertime and turn the grill on, or kind of alternator for searing on a pan if I want just kind of a different flavor or a different experience. Getting outside of the standard American diet, leftovers, eat them whenever. That's leftovers are an easy breakfast choice for the next day, or parlaying it right into lunch, turning it into lunch for the next day. I always try to cook a little bit extra when I can to have at least one meal for the next day that I can pair with the same kind of combination or pair it with a slightly different combination. I think some of the my other favorite things to think about, eating things like having some easy chopped cucumbers and peppers, or apple slices, that easy to put things on the side to pair up with any kind of meats or fats or grains that you're going to have. I like kind of having that crunch in the meals. A little crunch always makes me feel good. Using frozen fruits or veggies are a tremendous option. I do probably a frozen bag of cauliflower or broccoli every day, if not every other day. Some other things, having the capacity and the practice to make your own dressings. All of the old favorite dressings in the stores are just loaded with preservatives and chemicals and those vegetable oils. So being able to just make some simple dressings of some lemon or some vinegar and some olive oil and some salt and pepper is really a power play in the journey of prepping your own healthy food. I would like to say, I think this one's underrated: having healthy pickup options on the days that you don't feel like cooking. Having an option that you can go and pick up that's a healthy one is super important. I always like kind of having also a few go-to recipes that you just kind of, you're going to cook well. They're kind of business-like. They, even though you may do them a lot, but they're just kind of staples of your week that you go through, either grilled chicken or, baked salmon or hard-boiled eggs, just things that, regular salads that you love, that just kind of end up being part of what your what your standard plugins for the week are. And I always like having an option, like an easy throw together option if you just aren't in the mood to cook. So for me, that would be if I don't feel like cooking, I could have, I'll steam up a bag of frozen broccoli, have an apple, have some almond butter, have some nuts, and it's enough. It's enough to kind of do the job and get me through. I would like to share a couple of my favorite documentaries right now that I still watch. I watch Chef's Table pretty regularly. I've seen just about all of them. I love it. Let's see, I'm going to put those in the chat, share with everybody. And also, if you haven't seen it, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat is on Netflix. One of the coolest ones. That there's an episode, woman breaks down kind of the ancient practices and different culinary practices across the world for how salt is used in culinary practices, how fat is, acid, and different levels of heat. Very fun cooking one. Chef's Table, if you haven't seen it, tune in. Tons of episodes that highlight different chefs from around the world, and cool stories and phenomenal food and great tips. And for blogs, I think as I was kind of thinking for this, what I ended up finding was kind of like a cool like top list. Now, what I suggest, because I don't really eat grains. I'm kind of a clean protein, fat, and a ton of vegetables and fruits kind of a guy, and nuts and seeds. So for me, I kind of fall in like a paleo category. Grains just don't really feel well for my system, but they may for many others, and they do for many others. So some people might like to eat and choose to eat a little bit more vegan or vegetarian, which is great, which is perfect. So you can kind of seek out some of the blogs and recipe lists that that fit your taste. Or if you were looking to kind of eat more paleo or a certain style, find those ones and just do a little research, and you can always kind of pick a handful, 2 or 3 things that I've got like 4 or 5 that I find myself going back to regularly for recipes if I want to switch things up. So those are my favorite kind of tips for preparing healthy food. I wasn't going to get into teaching people how to cook today, but we are in the future going to try to bring on some local chefs that can kind of talk about preparing particular dishes. Anybody has any questions or would like to share any of their own kind of personal go-to recipes, or just their own kind of healthy experience, or what they particularly like or find doesn't work with them, would love to hear it and chat about it for a minute. Yep. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. I mean, so for me, this is, as we kind of start to wrap up, this one's like kind of straightforward. I think making it a journey, embracing it as part of this journey, identifying your own personal formula is super important. Trying to fully eliminate as you get down this journey, even on your special treat days when you want pizza or you want some cakes, that you're elevating those choices into the healthiest possible choices for those, that you're not buying that super ultra processed one, but you find as time goes on, you're elevating your choices to ones that maybe don't use as much of the ultra refined oils, or use the healthy oils, or a healthier kind of flour. And I think that's kind of how the evolution goes. And I think that embracing that kind of flexible model of I'm going to be chopping or cooking kind of every day, and sometimes you can do more or less than others, is super important. So I hope some of these tips kind of help for everybody. I'm going to put them together in the email and share along. If anybody before I kind of wrap up has any comments or questions, would love to address. And I think that being able to research and kind of tune in on a personal level some of the things around the oils and sugars and flours are it's important. Those are ones that I encourage everybody to kind of research and get a personal understanding for, as opposed to just listening in and taking somebody's word for it. But do some research on them. Take a look at some of the oils and how they relate to cooking and to inflammation and to health. And I hope I hope everybody has a good rest of the day and cook some healthy lunch. And appreciate everybody on here, and we'll see you all soon.